My next guest has written about this morning in a Wall Street Journal editorial. He writes, quote, Democrats refused to face the truth. They lost the presidency principally because voters demanded change. Mr. Trump promised it in abundance, while Mrs. Clinton represented the status quo. Her main selling point, her qualifications and experience, showed how out of touch with voters she was. That is according to Karl Rove in this morning's paper. He is former White House Deputy Chief of Staff and President George W. Bush, to George W. Bush, and a Fox News contributor. Karl, good morning. Good to see you this morning.
Morning, Martha.
You know, it's always important for a party, as your party lost in the last presidential election, to take stock and to figure out why you didn't reach enough people. So you went through this point by point this morning to figure this out for the Democrats, and what did you find?
Well, they offer up a lot of excuses. The biggest one tended to be earlier, the Electoral College. If we just didn't have the Electoral College, we would have won. Well, we got the Electoral College, and it's not the founders' fault that Hillary Clinton failed to get African-American turnout up to the numbers she needed in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Detroit and Milwaukee. It's not the founders' fault that the Democrats lost support of rural Democrats in Great Lakes states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So, you know, the really weird one is Jennifer Palmieri at the Harvard conference of managers looking at the election said, well, it's white supremacists. Then put it in an op-ed. That's an incredible insult to the 55 million whites who voted for Donald Trump. You only voted for him because he made an appeal to the white supremacists. But even more than that is it doesn't make sense. If he made an appeal to white supremacists, then you'd think there'd be a counter-reaction with an even bigger black turnout. And yet Hillary Clinton got fewer black votes and a smaller percentage of the African-American vote than Barack Obama did, while Donald Trump did better among non-whites than Mitt Romney did across the board. So, you know, they keep offering up these excuses, but they don't bear out don't bear out under some scrutiny.
You know, it's interesting when you go through the different groups and you think I think back to Reince Priebus coming out right after the last election that Mitt Romney lost and saying, look, we need to do a forensic investigation of what happened here. We need to figure out why we're not resonating with Hispanic voters, why we're not resonating with African-American voters. And you look at the fact that Donald Trump won with evangelicals. He moved those numbers higher with African-American voters, as you say, and Hispanic voters as well, marginally, but higher. When you look at that, when you look at all of that data, you know, what do you believe that Democrats need to do? And I know this isn't the hat that you really want to wear, but if you were giving them advice, what would you say?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think they couldn't represent change because they're so stuck in believing that the answer is a big government solution, and this was a year in which voters wanted change, not more of the same. The second thing is that they really are a coastal party. They can do well appealing to people in San Francisco and Cambridge, Massachusetts, in Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. They're not good at appealing to flyover America, and that's why they lost counties that the Republicans have not won in over 20 years, and in some instances 30 years, in places like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. So they ought to be thinking about why is it that they failed to have a message of change in an election in which it was clear right from the beginning that people wanted change. And their answer, and it's indicative of the weakness of the corrosion inside the Democratic Party, that they won't confront that. I mean, we got Harry Reid saying, well, Jim Comey did the election. And then he said, well, it was the Russians and the WikiLeaks, which was worse than 9/11. Really? Really, Senator Reid? 3,000 Americans died on 9/11, and you're saying the WikiLeaks is worse than that? I mean, and then David Brock, who's the sort of the uber oppo dude for the Democrats, says, oh, the problem was that Hillary apologized for the email server. She should have simply said it was permitted. Really? People knew it wasn't permitted, and they knew she was lying about it.
Yeah.